Week is good morning, Boker Tov. This week is Parshas Tzav, but I also thought that we should start a little bit on Pesach. Yesterday, my cleaning crew was here, so I had them do my downstairs fridge, so I could start already. I felt a little happier knowing I'm on my way to getting the house ready for Pesach. You know, once. What is that expression? One step for mankind is, something that is one step, whatever.
One small step for man, one giant step for mankind.
Very good. So that was it. One small step for Pesach, one giant step for Pesach.
Speaking of Pesach, I'm recovering chairs for Pesach.
Oh, beautiful. I love it. So there's a little joke, the Rebbe, a woman was telling the Rebbe she has 11, 12 children, and it's so hard, and it's cleaning and everything. So the Rebbe told her, the Lubavitcher Rebbe told her, remember that dust and dirt is not chametz, and your children are not the carbon Pesach, which means sacrificing your children.
Yeah.
So if you ever get into a frenzy about Pesach, just remember, again, spring cleaning comes with Pesach cleaning. Why do I love to clean for Pesach? Because the house gets cleaned. So it's like, it's a frenzy. When am I going to scrub my freezer to death? Only because Pesach is coming. Do I always scrub that well?
That's
No.
right.
So that's what it is with Pesach. I'll tell a joke being restarted. There was a couple lived on the land of the Poritz of the squire who was a very big anti-Semite. And every time he got drunk, he did terrible things to the Jewish people. On a whim, he gets drunk and he calls in Moshe, who's a tenant on his land, who owned a little inn, and that was his income. Even though he was very poor, that was his income. He says, Moshe, if you want to continue renting from me, you have to convert to Christianity. I don't want any Jews on my property. So Moshe runs home to his wife. He says, Malka, you terrible news. The squire said if we don't convert, he won't let us rent. So they make believe, they convert, everything they do secretly. Months go by. Now the squire calls Maurice. Now he's called Maurice into his office again. And Malka says to her husband, now what does he want? He calls him in. He's drunk. He says, Maurice, I had a good couple of weeks and months. I decided if you want to be Jewish, you could be Jewish again. Moshe is so excited, he runs home. Malka, good news. We could be Jewish again. She says, really? Did it have to be Erev Pesach?
That's funny. That's a good one.
Okay. So we associate Pesach with a lot of stress and cleaning, and it's so hectic, and you have to switch over. It's but I don't know anybody that doesn't sit down at that Seder table and say to themselves, wow, look at my family, my friends, beautiful, what a good feeling. The table is set, the Seder begins. And you're not in the kitchen heating up the chicken soup, because at the Seder, every man, woman, and child has to sit at the Seder. You need to get help to heat up your chicken soup so you could enjoy with your family. Let someone else sit in the kitchen, is what I always say. You have to reap the rewards of your labor, otherwise you're resentful. Years ago, I was a rollerblader. I rollerbladed every day down the streets of Norwalk and in the park. And it was Erev Pesach. And for some reason, even with the 11 children, I was ready. So I said to my family, I have to go out. Where did I go? I went to the Westport Library and I got a bunch of library books to read. And then I went a little rollerblading in the parking lot. So a Jewish lady who knew me came over. She said, Freida, is that you? I'm like, yeah. She's rollerblading Erev Pesach. I'm like, why not? Why not? I'm ready. My house is set. I'm ready. I needed an hour to myself. So it's very important to give yourself time to buy yourself new clothes and get the manicure, the pedicure, whatever else, and enjoy the Seder. What you're not a slave. Remember, the slaves were freed years ago. If you don't treat yourself well, you're resentful. I did everything and no one helped. First of all, everyone should get jobs. I always hang up a sign on my refrigerator when the kids finally roll out of bed, even the guests, my married. I'm like, everybody sign up. You could peel potatoes, you could take out the garbage, you can vacuum. Everyone gets jobs, then no one is resentful. So that's just a little tip on, I call it my balabusta tips. Because you want to enjoy Yontif, you want to be able to tap into the spiritual energy of what it's all about. And we'll get more into that after we do a little bit of Parshas Tzav. So that's the intro to Pesach. So Parshas Tzav is a continuation of the laws given to the priests, the Kohanim, what to do in the tabernacle and Mishkan, and later what to do in the Beit HaMikdash. And quite interesting tidbits, but you're going to ask yourself, what does it have to do with me? We don't have a Beit HaMikdash now. And we know from previous lessons, we have a few mantras in our class, that everything in the Torah is not literal only. There's the literal, but then there's the metaphysical and the multiple dimensional aspects of it that relate to us hundreds of years later. So then Moshe was telling Aaron and his sons, who were going to be the priests, the first priests to work in the Mishkan, the mini tabernacle, the mini Beis HaMikdash, the rules, how to bring an offering, how to bring the offering of flour, how to do the incense, how to light the fire, how to collect the ashes. And you read it and like, it's interesting, but come on, it's not mind-boggling. And you ask yourself again, what does it have to do with me? I'm not bringing an offering, and so on. I'm not collecting ashes. I'm not bringing my goat, my cow, my duck. I don't know if they brought ducks. My offering to the Beis HaMikdash. So everything now in these verses have a literal explanation that I'm going to share, and then we're going to understand what does it have to do with us today. So first of all, it starts over the word Tzav, which means command. God is commanding Moshe what to tell the priests. So Rashi, the classic commentator, jumps in and say, why use the word Tzav? Tzav is more like, do this. It seems severe. You could say, Hagid, tell the priests what to do, tell the Jewish people what to do. Or you could say, Leimar, speak to the people, speak to the Kohanim and tell them what to do. Why use the word Tzav, which seems like a very definitive, aggressive term? You're commanding someone what to do. So there's a very interesting, beautiful insight. That remember, it's not only now Moses calling his older brother and his sons and the priests and saying, this is how you should do A, B, and C. Command means that this is how you should do it now, and there's no changing the commandment from God. In other words, like we see later what happens to our own son. They brought extra incense because they were overly excited to do the work of God, and then they died. So first of all, it's saying, if this is the way it's meant to be done, no adding, no changing. So that's one weird thing. The second thing is also that if you look at the world in our lives, you look at Hollywood, the actors, the actresses, and people in general, there's no continuity many times. People fail to complete or to continue their endeavors. You're here today, you're gone tomorrow. You're married to this one today, you're married to that one tomorrow. There's no sense of continuity and commitment. So what Moshe is telling Aaron, when you do these and these things, when you bring the offerings, when you light the fire, when you light the menorah, and all the other mitzvahs, it has to be everlasting. It's not something that you're here today, gone tomorrow. There has to be a serious commitment. When there's a serious commitment and you follow through, there's permanency. People know when you're wishy-washy. Your family knows. Well, mom, yesterday you were a yoga addict. Today you're into microbiotics. What are you going to do tomorrow? People don't take you seriously if you don't have a consistency and a permanency to things that you're doing. So by using the word Tzav, God is explaining everything you have to do has to have consistency and permanency. That's why there was a constant fire on the altar. The altar, which is like the Mizbeach, the fire pit. The fire was not allowed to go out. They had to always keep it burning. Why? Because it shows in life, if you don't keep your fire burning, you don't keep the romance alive, you don't keep the passion for important things in your life, it'll peter out and life will become meaningless and empty. So the permanency of the fire in the Mishkan, in the tabernacle, is indicative of the fire that we have to constantly fuel. Passion, a fire, has to constantly be fueled and fed to exist. It just doesn't happen. You meet some people, they're lifeless. They feel like life has no meaning. They haven't fueled their fire. They haven't found passion in life. And we're not judging, God forbid, but the Torah is saying, if you want your fire to stay alive, you have to fuel it. You have to keep adding wood. And we all know that adding wood is not only about material attainment. It's not at all about material attainment. It's about the spiritual treasures, doing things that are connected to God, to the soul, and which is Torah, which is God's wisdom. That's how you keep your fire burning. Which is going to bring me now to something also which I love, which is so beautiful. So like a fellow came to Shul, he had to say Kaddish. They couldn't get a minyan for him. He got angry. You can't get a minyan? I have to say Kaddish. So the Gabbai comes over to him and says, sir, yesterday there was another guy who wanted to say Kaddish. Where were you yesterday? In other words, when he needs something, he's there. But commitment has to be continuous. You can't come to Shul one day, Yom Kippur, and expect that to inspire your entire 364 other days of the year. You need to continuously fuel your soul and fuel your energy, so to speak, in order to keep passion alive. And this is why the Torah emphasizes Tzav and also says you must keep the fire burning all the time. So that's how it starts the Torah portion. Which brings me now to something that I love. When I read this, I said, this is very beautiful. This is very beautiful. So, the Jews brought different types of offerings. There were animal offerings, there were flour offerings. And there's something very strange. When they brought a mincha offering, which is a flour offering, like they made like a cake, bread out of it, or I don't know if it's a bread, but like a cake out of it, a flour. Half of it was put on the altar and burnt, which is an offering to Hashem, like all the other offerings. Some were totally burnt. Some half was burnt, like on a barbecue pit, and the rest was given to the Kohanim to take home. That was their reward. They got food from the Mishkan, because that's their pay, So what happened with this flour offering? Half was burnt, and the rest was given to the Kohen to take home. So you wonder, why wasn't the whole thing burnt? If you're bringing an offering and a gift to someone, I'm going to bring you a box of chocolates, and then I'll say, Diane, you know what, but half I'm going to take home. You keep half, I'll keep it. You're bringing a gift to God, the whole offering should be burnt. The whole offering is burnt. So it brings us to a very interesting insight that I think we discussed a few years ago, that this really defines how we have our relationship with God and our relationship with our spiritual identity. We were put into a world not to sit and connect to the mystical energy and float and leave everything as is. We were put into the world, into a body, to refine the world, to live in the very materialistic world and imbue it with light and spirituality. That's our mission in a nutshell. Okay? Now, well, what happens? You need to live a real life, right? You need to work, you need to do laundry, you need to go shopping, you need to cook, you need to buy, you need to sell, whatever business you're in. So God is saying that when you bring an offering to me, when you wake up in the morning and you put your hands together and you say, Moda ani lifanecha melechai b'kayam, shachazarti bi nishmasi b'chem l'rabba munesecha. Thank you, God, for giving me back my soul. You wash your hands, you go dress, you make a bracha on your breakfast, on your coffee, and you're off to work. And the rest of your day is pursuit of materialistic pursuits, because that's real life. You have to drive the kids to school, you have to pick up your children at the train, you have to pick up the cleaners, drop off the cleaners, you need a new hamper, you need to buy and sell if you're in the stock market, you need to buy, show your clients real estate, you're an artist, you need to make your beautiful sculptures, whatever pursuit you are in, whether it's a hobby or your job. So you might say, well, yes, the 5 minutes or 10 minutes or hour a day, I prayed to God, I did my spiritual work, but the rest of the day is simple materialism. Comes the Torah and says, no, it doesn't matter that the rest of your day is menial tasks. If the foundation of your life is moda'ani, if when you wake up in the morning, you entrench yourself and connect immediately to your soul and to God by those little acts, the rest of your day is now following this trajectory of a relationship with your soul. You might say, well, it's a menial thing. I'm buying groceries. How holy could grocery shopping be? But now, because the foundation of your life is your connection to your soul, it doesn't matter if it's menial. You were meant to do menial tasks. That's life. You're not going to diaper the baby because it's a menial task. Your whole life is imbued now with godliness and spirituality because the foundation is built on that. Even though you could say, I only spent 5 minutes davening, praying, and giving tzedakah, but it's another 20 hours of materialism, so to speak, or menial acts. How could 5 minutes define my life? It does. This is what the offering is. Half of the offering gets burnt on the altar. It's gift to God. It's our spiritual connection. The other half is given to the Kohen to bring home to his family, to feed his family. To show us that life is the balance. And that's when life is not fragmented. But I think we spoke about it one more time. If you don't have that spiritual anchor, then life is a series of fragmented pieces. Everything you do is just pieces floating in the wind. But if you anchor it in spirituality and you give half of your offering to God, even though the rest of it is bread to feed your family, then all those pieces create a beautiful glass art piece or tapestry of called your life, your journey. Now those pieces all come together. It's not like a broken glass and you're tripping on cutting yourself on these pieces. Now all those pieces form together magically to create a beautiful tapestry, art, sculpture called your life. Why? Because it's anchored in a connection to who you are, why you're here, and a connection to your soul and to God. That's how important that offering is. That's how important your morning connection is. So even if you do nothing but say Moda Ani, wash the ritual washing, put a nickel into tzedakah, grab your coffee and say a blessing, and then running off for the rest of the day, and not even thinking about God the rest of the day, your life takes on a whole different dimension. Because there's a mission and there's a purpose. It's not random. And then when you turn 99, you're wondering, what did I ever do in my life? I didn't create connections. I didn't create friendships. I didn't feed my soul. So these little acts, these little mitzvahs, these little offerings really build your life story. And you might say, and you might not realize that this is what's keeping you happy and content. That's why you're smiling when you're meeting your customers, or you're smiling when you're meeting a friend, because your life has meaning. You're not holding something saying, why am I even here? Why did I do this? What am I doing? Now, when you head home in your car, when you're driving, it's time to think, saying, today was a good day. It was a good day because it started right. It started right. And when you wake up in the morning and you don't want to get out of bed and you don't want to say Moda'ani, do something for somebody else and you'll see it's going to transform how you see your day. Sometimes you don't want to get out of bed. Sometimes you don't want to connect because you're too down and out. Do something or call someone that you haven't spoken to, and you'll see how it's going to schlep you out of your darkness. I told you the story about my friend Teddy with the gas station. Did I ever tell you that story quickly? Yeah, you remember it? The woman with the elderly woman?
I think about that one all the time.
Yeah.
You were running
No, tell
away,
us.
and you tell Diane.
Yeah. She changed. My day was a day that I tell you, I was ready to run anybody over in my path. But when you do something for someone, you do for yourself, and it changes your whole. And this is not a coincidence. That is the makeup of the divine energy in you. That's the makeup. Because why do you give and get? It doesn't make sense. I give and I get. No, I give, I should be diminished. I just gave $1,000 to the IDF. Now I'm $1,000 poor. No, you're $1,000 richer. Our whole approach to giving is getting. Our whole approach to life is so different when we are connected to God's wisdom. Everything takes on a different perspective, a different definition. Whether you're looking in the Merriam-Webster dictionary, right? Takes on a different definition sometimes. So now you know why the Torah is elaborating on these little details. Like, who cares if the whole offering wasn't burned? Okay, big deal. Big deal, but now you know that your leftovers, so to speak, are also holy. Holiness is not only the piece that goes on the altar, holiness is also in the leftovers, the part that goes to the Kohen. Very beautiful insight, I think. And now I want to share something very interesting also about the altar that I think has tremendous relevancy to us. So there's also a very elaborate explanation of what happens at the end of the day when they're done with all the burning of the offerings. It seems to be a very busy place, the tabernacle. And the more people that showed up that day, the more fire was happening, more burning. If a woman had a baby, they brought an offering to thank God. If somebody sinned, they brought an offering for forgiveness. There were the holiday offerings. There was so many offerings. There was the daily offerings, continuous offerings. And then there's an interesting tidbit that you were like, what is the Torah talking about? Since when does the Torah teach us about housekeeping skills and lessons in chemistry? If you didn't read that book, it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
What is the Torah talking about? A very interesting thing happens now in the Torah portion. I'm going to read that there's two mitzvahs relating to the ashes. Now, the bigger the fire, more ashes. And who here has a fireplace? Right? The more you burn, right? And last summer, I got 2 fire pits. I got a wood-burning fire pit for my backyard because I love building fires. It's just something crazy in me. I love collecting wood and starting a fire. But you know what happens? At the end of the fire pit, you have to empty out the ashes. It's a pain in the neck. But then my girls who are always complaining that the fire makes their clothes smell, I got them an electric fire pit. So now we go outside. I'm like, girls, do you want to do the fun fire pit or you want to do the lazy girls fire pit? The Jewish American princess fire pit. And they're like, the electric fire pit when they're sticks for the marshmallows. They don't want to, but my grandchildren love the real fire pit. So do I. But, so we have two fire pits. So there's always cleaning of the ashes. And the Torah is talking about the cleaning of the ashes in great detail. Listen, so there was Terumas Hadeshen, which is raising up of the ashes. And then there was Haitzas Hadeshen, taking out the ashes. So not only are there ashes, there's two types of ashes. So now envision, the altar was up on a ramp, right? High up. There weren't steps, there was a ramp so that there wouldn't be immodesty when the Kohen walked down. No one would be able to look up his coat. So it was a modest thing. So it was a ramp. So he walks up to the altar every morning, and job number one of the priest is to take the shovel, take one shovel full of the ashes, go to the right, and there was a little place to put a shovel full of the ashes. That was called raising up of the ashes. Then every few days, the ashes got too high, so it wasn't enough to take one shovel full. The Kohen went, took like a wheelbarrow, filled it up with all the ashes, rolled it out of the tabernacle, took it out of Jerusalem, michutz lamachana, on the outskirts of Jerusalem, so it was quite a trek, and there he would dump the leftover ashes. Now, what are some questions you're going to ask? Go ahead, girls. This is what happened. This is what the Torah is telling them to do. Moshe's commanding. This is how you handle the ashes.
Was it
Wow.
too menial a job for them to do?
Very good. That's one thing we're going to address. The Kohen is cleaning. Like, who do you call to clean out your garbage? You got a garbage company. The Kohen is the one wheeling out the ashes and shoveling the ashes. Very good question, Diane. What else?
What was the question, Diane? I'm sorry, I didn't hear it. The answer.
Was it too menial a task for the Kohen to clean?
But they did, the commandment was for the Kohen to clean it, right?
Yes.
I like that they humanized.
Very good.
So he knows what the rest of us go through.
Very good. Very, very good.
I think all men should be commanded to clean. But what about taking it out of Jerusalem? Why did they have to take it out of Jerusalem? There must be some significance to that, to either acknowledge their other sections, or to keep it clean, or to, I don't know, I can't think about what that would be for, but that seems very intricate and a very big job to schlep a wheelbarrow. I don't know how far it was. How far was it? Take the wheelbarrow.
Good trek, a good chutz lamachana, out of the encampment, it says, at the outskirts of Jerusalem. They had to dump.
You couldn't just put it in a bag and put it out for the garbage man. So I guess garbage collector, I should say, sorry.
So any other questions you could think of in regard to this, what I just mentioned, the story of the commandment of what to do? What about the fact, why every day just a shovel full of ashes? Maybe if every day they took it out, or take all the ashes out, maybe why only every day one shovel full, put it in a special place, and only every few days when it was overwhelmingly abundant, they took out all the ashes. So that's also a question. Why do the shovelful? Do it all at once. When it builds up, boom, take it out. Why do we have the aspect of the shovelful every day and then the bigger job? Is another question, right?
Well, if that trip was a long trip, it wouldn't make sense to do it every day. But
no, but I'm saying,
wouldn't they blow away?
but it was like a little pit.
Maybe.
Oh.
Yeah, go ahead.
Maybe a little bit every day helps the final job of every few days to wheel it all off.
Okay, that's practical.
A little bit at a time.
Yeah, but one shovelful is not exactly going to do the job. But okay, yeah, you could say. But also, why mention it that way? Why even do we really need to know the housekeeping skills? It doesn't say mop the floor, empty the garbage
gotta-
cans, right?
It's got to be representative of something else.
Yeah.
The act of doing it represents something. And I
Very
know you're
good.
going to tell us.
The Kohen shall don his linen tunic, and he shall don his linen trousers. He shall lift out the ashes and put them down next to the altar. So not only does he have to take a shovelful every day, he has to change his clothes when he does the ashes. He comes into the Beit HaMikdash, he changes out of his Kohen garb into another Kohen garb, a linen, does the act of the ashes, and then he changes back to continue the work of the day. So there's one little tidbit, and then we're going to go into the deeper. So ashes is what's left over from yesterday's work, from yesterday's offering. So, and a very simple, cute little thing is that yesterday's work is every day your work has to do better and better. What was left over from yesterday, says the Torah, doesn't impact today. You never should feel what was left over, undone, unfulfilled yesterday, impacts you today. Today is a new day. Yesterday, you achieved one level. Today, you always have to strive to do more and more and more. That's why the students of Rabbi Shneir Zalman of Leadi, the Alter Rebbe, would say, Morgen wird sein Gott anders. Tomorrow will be totally different. So the removal of the ashes, even the small bit of ashes, is saying the remnants of yesterday doesn't impact today. Today, you got to do better and better. So that's like an interesting insight. Very nice. But the two types of ash removal is reflective of something totally different. And I'm going to explain that in a minute. But before I go into that, I want to say what Diane said. Isn't it menial? The same Kohen who did the popular jobs, the respected jobs, bringing the offerings and purifying the people, with the red heifer, with the ashes, is the same guy that cleans out the Beis HaMikdash ashes. In Torah, nothing is menial. If it has to be done, the leader of the Jewish people can get it done. Equally important to delegating it to someone who you think is less important. The Kohanim got the same unpleasant and menial tasks alongside with their more revered tasks. And the reason is because this is all about humility. Moshe was considered the most humble man of all time. How? Because it was precisely his humility that allowed him to become so great. Greatness is dependent on humility. So when a Kohen has the task of housekeeping, along with the more revered tasks of bringing the offerings and atoning for the Jewish people, it shows that humility is not relegated to those who are poor or unaccomplished or nebach. Humility comes with greatness. So by someone accepting that there's sometimes very menial jobs in my life, that first of all builds humility, but also it shows humility. I'm never too high and mighty to help somebody change their tire. I'm never too high and mighty to help clean off the table or help somebody cross the street. If you're too high and mighty to do the menial tasks, then you're not high and mighty enough to do the revered tasks, because the revered tasks require humility. Remember, Moses would speak to every Jew's complaint and issues until his father-in-law Jethro said, Moshe, you can't do this by yourself. You need help. Moshe never felt he was too high and mighty to break up a dispute between two housewives that discovered somebody stole from them or took from them, or she took from me and I took from her. Moshe was there for everyone, even in what you would call the menial tasks. So this is what it's telling us, that the fact that the Kohen did the ashes and didn't have a cleaning crew come in shows you want to be the revered tasks, you also have to know how to do the menial tasks, because that is a sign of humility. So that's one aspect of the concept of the ashes. Why the Kohen is the one, and not, couldn't they get like a cleaning crew? Guys who are dressed in their boots and their gloves and they're ready to clean. Look how he has to wear special clothing to clean up the ashes. So now there's a very, very beautiful insight about life to do with the ashes. And I'm going to read from the Torah portion. God tells Moshe, command Tzav, Aaron and his sons. This is the law of the burnt offering that is in the burnt offering which burns on the altar all night until morning. Remember, the fire remained lit. And the priest shall don his linen tunic, and he shall don his linen trousers, and he shall lift out the ashes on the altar from the fire which consumed the burnt offering, and put them near the altar. He shall then take off his garments and put on other garments, and then he shall take out the ashes to a clean place outside the camp. So we're talking about two types of jobs. The job where they took the daily shovel, and then when the Kohen had to take all the ashes out outside of the camp. So what is this talking about? Two types of ashes. So the Alter Rebbe has a beautiful Kabbalistic discourse on understanding this based on life now. What is the relevancy to this whole scenario elaborated in the Torah portion with our daily lives? So in our lives, there's two aspects in our lives. It's the fire that burns within us, who we are. And then you have the aspect in our lives, the ashes, the negative aspects of how we feel about ourselves. So a person who in life goes through life, but then you have things that hold you back. I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough. I could have done this better. I should have known better. And all the things that crimp us, going on through life. Those are our ashes. And you know what? Those ashes are healthy ashes. Why? They help us define our mission in life. They don't hijack us in becoming incompetent, unable to move, unable to do what we have to do in life. The ashes, healthy person has ashes. We're always questioning, well, I should have said that, I could have done that, maybe I should have done it this way. But you have a healthy ego. You're able to go through life with your ashes, with your fallacies, but they don't hijack your mission. You don't wake up in the morning and say, I cannot get out of bed because I'm a failure. I don't deserve to live. I don't even know why I was born. Why did God put me on this earth? Not one thing I ever do is good. I've never done anything good in my life, and I can never, ever do anything good in my life. A normal, healthy person has moments of insecurity. You bang yourself up. Why did I do this? I should have done that. That's the daily ashes that we remove from ourselves. It's a shovelful, but it doesn't hold us back from living life. Some days are good days, some days are not such good days. But then the Alter Rebbe says there's another type of ash. It's the ash that builds up in our life. It's the ash that holds us back from living a happy, healthy, normal, adjusted life. It's what I just described. I don't know why I was born. Why did God put me on this earth? Who the heck needs me? Everything I do is a failure. There's one thing I do right. Ask my mother, ask my father, ask my friends, ask my children, ask my boss, ask my partner. I'm a loser. There's so much ash in your life, you cannot go forward. It pulls you back. You're depressed. You don't want to get out of bed in the morning. You can't put one foot in front of you. You're a mess. Says the Alter Rebbe, based on Kabbalah, that ash has to be taken far away. It's not going to help if you dump a little bit on the side. You need to eradicate it. Mechutz lamachna, take it out of your encampment, your psyche. It doesn't belong with you. You must get rid of it. And you got to take it far away. You got to throw it far away so it doesn't allows you to move forward in life. And know that nobody was put on this earth by coincidence or by accident. As I always say, Hasidus teaches us, birth is telling you that God, you matter, God wanted you on this earth. That's why you were born. You weren't born because your parents made a mistake. Like one lady tells me, oh, I had a baby. I'm like, Mazel tov. Yeah, he was a mistake. He wasn't a mistake. She said, it failed. Our birth control failed. And I'm like, it didn't fail. God wanted your child to be born. I said to myself. So no one is here on this earth because it was a mistake. The stork went to the wrong address and dropped you off. Birth means you have a mission and purpose on this earth that no one else can accomplish. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. So the Alter Rebbe says there's two types of avodah, there's two types of work a person has to do on themselves. One, you have to get rid of your daily ashes. Yes, you have to criticize yourself. You have to have a healthy humility, admit when you made a mistake. But your ashes should help you grow, not hinder you, and not allow you to move forward in your life and in your relationships. Once those ashes keep telling you they're a burden and you can't walk and you can't succeed and you can't flourish and you're miserable, you got to eradicate them, whether through therapy and other means of getting help and allowing yourself to feel your self-worth. So it's not haphazard that the Torah talks about ashes, It doesn't tell us to use fabulosa, or like in my house, we only can use healthy cleansers. My kids just revamp me. I'm not allowed to even use Pledge to polish my furniture anymore. Ugh, I love the sweet smell. My kid said, Ma, if it has fragrance, it's poison. That's the new, I even have a sign in my kitchen. If it has fragrance, it's poison. I'm like, I like Tide. I want my laundry to smell fresh. And my kids go, no, mommy, it's poison. I'm like, okay. So my kid said clean doesn't have to smell clean. It's clean because it's clean. That's the new psychology. It's a problem when your kids are smarter than you sometimes. So anyway, so this is what the Alter Rebbe, who wrote discourses based on Kabbalah, Jewish mysticism, explains that the story of the ash types of ash is the story of us, how we approach life and how we have to view ourselves. If you look in the mirror and you see ashes on your forehead, like those people that do Ash Friday, whatever they do, and that's what you see a loser, you must start working on yourselves and look in the mirror and say, I am a godly soul. I am a part of God and I deserve to be in this world. Yes, I have faults. We all have faults. But I can't allow around the negative to over, how do you call it? It's over, over whatever. be overbearing over my positive. And by the way, like we said every single week, this is not something that happens overnight. You sit on a yoga mat, you meditate, and now I'm a new person. It's an avodah. The Alter Rebbe describes that everything takes years and years of work, of refining yourself and changing your mindset. I think all the Torah study is all about changing our mindset, how we look at life, how we look at ourselves, how we look at the world. So every time we get one of these snippets of learning and insight based on Torah, we start looking at, hopefully, I'm talking about myself, looking at things totally differently. Like when, now after studying about Joseph and then Queen Esther, I'm like, I wasn't sold, I was sent. So whenever I find myself in a moment, I'm like, what did I do to myself? I didn't do it to myself. I was sent. Sometimes you're sent. The sent mentality, as opposed to the soul mentality, it makes you even feel more in control of your life in a sense. That it's not always my bad decisions or what did I do wrong, more what did I do right, that I was given this opportunity to do something different or change my corner of the universe. That's how we have to begin looking at it. So there's a story with the Alter Rebbe. He was given a gift from somebody. The Alter Rebbe was the first Chabad Rebbe. His name is Rabbi Shneir Zalman of Liadi. And he wrote the book of Tanya. Tanya is what we call the Kabbalah primer. It's not such a primer, but Kabbalah is very esoteric. The Alter Rebbe took Kabbalah and put it into a book called Tanya. How do you take Kabbalah and make it applicable to your life? And that's called Hasidus, Jewish mysticism. And Chabad, Lubavitch is where the city where the Chabad Rebbe's come from in Russia. Chabad is Chachma Bina Vadas, the intellectual faculties that allow us to understand and get information about how to live our lives. So anyone who wants to say you've been brainwashed, the whole concept of studying Hasidus is the concept of using your intellect to be a better person, a better soul living on earth, and more connected to God. And even so, many things defy logic, but everything starts with us with logic. We're logical people. But like I told one lady who was arguing with me, I said, who created logic? Who created 2 + 2 = 4? God. For all practical purpose, logic could have been illogical, right? God could have created an atmosphere where what you think is common sense is not common sense. Even common sense and logic was created by God. So even logic is a creation based on believing that there's a God. Otherwise, I could argue with you all day that 2 + 2 is not 4. I don't know of a God I don't know who God is. Why should I do 2 + 2 = 4? So all our absolutes have to come from somewhere, right? Otherwise, how do we know that we're not living in a dream, you and all three? Maybe we're not even alive. Maybe this is all a new inner dimension, or, like those science fiction shows. Maybe we're living in a different reality. Maybe we're time travelers. Who knows? So we have to have some absolutes. So there's a story with the Alter Rebbe, just to show you what a great Rebbe is. Everything they do is based on such special dignity and connection. So somebody wanted to give the Alter Rebbe a gift, and in those days, a snuff box was a beautiful gift. So the Alter Rebbe gets this gorgeous, shiny, sterling silver snuff box, like you could see yourself in the snuff box. And the Alter Rebbe said, the only a sense of the 5 senses that has not been imbued with sin is the sense of smell. Because when Adam and Chava ate from the tree of knowledge, they heard the words of the snake. They tasted the fruit. which could have been a fig, a date, wheat, an esrig, but not an apple. That was Michelangelo said it was an apple. So they heard, they tasted, they saw the tree of knowledge. Or what other senses are there? They touched it, but they didn't smell. So all the four senses, says the Alter Rebbe, had a falling down because they were involved in the first sin, the first transgression, the sin of the eating of the fruit of the tree of knowledge. The only one that wasn't impacted was the nose. The nose remained innocent. So the Alter Rebbe said, now I'm being given a snuff box and I'm going to start snuffing, right? Because you're going to want to snuff it, like smoking. Now I'm going to also allow the sense of smell to fall into materialism, says the Alter Rebbe. So the Alter Rebbe took off the hinge from the snuff box and used it as a mirror to adjust his morning tefillin. This is the story. So one of his older disciples came to the Tzemach Tzedek, the grandson of the Alter Rebbe, and said, boy, was your grandfather special. When he got a snuff box, he broke off the cover and he used it as a mirror for something holy, to see his tefillin, because when you put on tefillin and you're very special Jew, or you're very meticulous, like my husband has a little mirror, it has to be adjusted perfectly to the center of your forehead. Not too much to the left, not too much to the right. So the grandson says to this disciple, no, he says. I'll say it in Yiddish and I'll say it in English. Du kennst nicht mein Seiden. Mein Seide hat keinmal nicht Emerson zerbrochen. Nicht sich und nicht andere. He says, you don't know my grandfather. My grandfather did not break anyone, not himself and not others. What my grandfather did was remove the hinge, because a snuff box has a cover with a little hinge, right? He removed the hinge in order to use the cover. But to break a snuff box, he would never break. So what was he really saying here? He was saying, my grandfather's approach was not to go over to somebody and demolish them and break them into feeling I'm nothing. I don't deserve to live in this world. And nor did he do it to himself. This is not our approach, to go over and demolish a student, demolish a friend. You're not worthy. I don't know how this idiot came into my class. What, are you dumb? Haven't you been doing your homework? Or you tell your child, I can't believe I gave birth to you. You didn't come from me or daddy, that's for sure. Nice. With this behavior. The approach of the Alter Rebbe was to build up, never to break others. You know what they say, make me, don't break me. So the story of the snuffbox shows us what was the approach of the Alter Rebbe when he describes the work of the ashes. That you're not there to look in the mirror and throw yourself under the bus and say, I'm not worthy. You're there to take your imperfections, your ashes every day and say, listen, yeah, I'm not perfect, but I could do better tomorrow and I deserve a place in this world because I have something to offer this world. I am here for a reason. And this is the story of the Alter Rebbe. He removed the hinge. You don't break something that's beautiful. You repurpose it maybe, but never break it. Always build it, never break it. And I think this is a lesson not only now for ourselves, that how we work with ourselves, not to degrade yourself in a way where you can't function, but also how we approach education with our children, our spouses. I mean, you know about it. What goes better, when you yell at your husband and tell him what a loser he is, and his mother was the same loser, and his grandfather was the same nudnik? Or you say, honey, this really hurt me, and so on and so forth. You always do better with not breaking. Take out the hinge and take a different approach. Say, listen, there's a little bit of ash here in the relationship, but we could fix it. We could fix it. And with our children too. It's so easy to demolish them with one sentence. That's what you bought? With the money I gave you? I asked you to do me a favor. That's how you do me a favor? You say, oh gosh, thank you so much. And so on and so forth. And then you give the critique. So the critique is tempered with goodness. Say, honey, I know you meant well, but I think this would be a better way to do it. And the person doesn't feel like they were attacked and they're worthless. So make me, don't break me. So whatever we do, there's always going to be a little bit of ash in our lives, but use it to spur forth change and growth, not to demolish. And if you see your ashes are getting, the pile is too high, shovel it out and shovel it far. Throw it to the wind, because it will only hinder you in your self-growth and self-development. Does anybody want to add anything or say anything? And so I want to end off with the final little note, because it's 11:01. So now for 7 days, Moses was doing the work to show the Kohanim. But now it's time to pass on the baton to his brother, who's the Kohen. So what happens? A very beautiful thing happens, and then we'll end off with this. So he calls over his older brother Aaron, and he says to him, come closer to the altar and do the work to atone for the people of Israel. That's your job. God has commanded you to be the representative in the tabernacle for the Jewish people. So why, Rashi asks, why does Moses say to his brother, come closer to the Mezbeach, come close? Wasn't his brother right there? So Rashi says Aaron was filled with a shame. And he says to Moshe, why me? Why do you want me to do the job? Choose someone else. So Moshe says to him, what do you mean? Lakach nimcharta. You were chosen to do the job of the Jewish people, to atone for them. So what's this conversation? Aaron, remember, he was there when they did the sin of the golden calf. And to stall them, he told them, build an altar. Because he knew if he keeps stalling, Moses will come down, and then they won't build the golden calf. So he said, go bring more jewelry. And he felt that he had participated in enabling the sin of the golden calf. So he was ashamed to go into the tabernacle before God and represent the Jewish people. He says, me, why did you choose me? I'm not worthy of this position. How could you choose me to do the work in the tabernacle when I got involved with the sin of the golden calf? I deserve to be punished. So Moshe says, oh, you're misunderstanding the whole job here. God chose you precisely because you felt shame. A guy who's arrogant, a Kohen who thinks he's greater than anyone else, can never do the work in the Beis HaMikdash for the Jewish people. This is precisely why God chose you, because you feel ash, you feel shame, you feel pain when you do something wrong. And then Aaron begins to do the work in the Beis HaMikdash. And this story underscores what we just discussed. This story comes in next week's Torah portion. That is precisely those leaders who feel shame, who know they have faults, who falter at times and make mistakes, that are the ones who are the Kohanim, the Jewish leaders who feel they're not worthy, who have the humility. If you're arrogant and you feel you're perfect, you can't atone for people who are imperfect. You don't understand that. How could you understand somebody who's feeling shame and embarrassment about a sin they did or something in their life, and they're coming to the Beis HaMikdash to you to bring an offering, and you'll say, why should I atone for that one? He's just going to do it again. He's always a liar. He's always a thief. He's going to just steal again. You need someone who understands to at times feel shame and pain in your imperfections, who feels that they have a little ash. And that's who is the one in the Beis HaMikdash. That's who's chosen. And that's humility. And the fact that you are feeling at times shamed about something you did is precisely the one who can bring an offering to God and represent the Jewish people. And that's the conclusion of the story here. That is why Aaron becomes the high priest, because precisely someone who feels shame and unworthy is the one that is worthy. So we'll conclude with this idea. So humility, but not make me, don't break me. With humility, you also have to have a sense of identity. So let's off that everybody have a beautiful, peaceful Shabbos. We should hear continued good news in Israel, continued good news, and know that America may not support us now in Israel, but I'll tell you what, you know who does support us? God. And that's what matters now. The fact that they vetoed what happened, the Gaza ceasefire,
UN,
is the
terrible.
same, right? Is the same as saying, as aligning themselves with Hamas and empowering Hamas. Know one thing now. Now, for sure, the Jewish people know one thing: America is not saving Israel. God is saving Israel. Almighty God will protect us, save us, and allow us to defend ourselves as we see fit. No one in their right mind would have told England and the United States to stop bombing Germany so the Nazis could have a little break and peace, and little and we should be able to give them supply so they don't starve, which isn't true because they're not starving, as stories are coming out. So let's have a peaceful week and let's continue seeing miracles from God. Shabbat Shalom, and always a
Shabbat
pleasure.
Shalom.
Shabbat
Thank
shalom.
you, Freida.
Thank you.
Have a
so
wonderful
much.
day.